Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwa Kamimo. There's plenty to talk about this week, much of it to do with the ongoing controversy about public finances. The queries about those finances have come from various sources: the Auditor General, the Controller of the Budget, and the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee. The controversy resulted in the arrest of a journalist for a few hours yesterday for publishing details of the expenditure of the Interior Ministry. And there are fresh attempts to push for the impeachment of the Cabinet Secretary for devolution in planning, and Waiguru. So we have today's guests as Balambala MP and member of PAC, the Public Accounts Committee, the Honourable Abdikadir Aden. He's from ODM and the Coalition. We also have Mithika Linturi, the Gembe South Member of Parliament. He's on the Public Investments Committee and is affiliated to TNA and the Jubilee Coalition. We also have with us our regular panel of David Makali and Mutegi Njao. Good morning and welcome to the show. Mr. Eden, I'll start with you just to give us a sense of perspective, because we have various inquiries going on about public finances. How many so far?
Well, what's happening right now is we are at the time of the year when the Parliament is looking at the expenditure of the government for the financial year 2013-2014. So literally we're looking at all the 18 ministries that existed in that financial year. So that is what is before Parliament right now. That's what is before the committee.
And this follows on from the Auditor General's report?
This follows on from the Auditor General's report. And there are also, in addition to that, a few specifically requested investigations on certain expenditure, things that are outside of the Auditor General's annual report. So those two, we are looking at them, and I think that there are quite a number of them. Okay,
but in terms of the questionable management of public finances, we seem to have the Devolution Ministry, we have the Interior Ministry, and from the papers this morning, it seems we also have questions about the Transport Ministry.
Yeah, those are probably the ones that we have already looked at so far. There are many more. The other ministries will also come on board when we get to their time.
Come under scrutiny, you mean?
Yes. What happens is that we cannot have all of them in the same day. So each account will be looked at a certain given date. So really, the ones you're talking about are the ones that the committee have had a look at, where there were issues, and the work is still going on. There is not. Once the committee completes its work, it will submit a report to now the plenary, the Parliament itself, the National Assembly. So basically the ones you have mentioned are the ones which we have so far looked at. But that does not mean that there is not more. We are waiting for many more other accounts to look at.
The member of Parliament who was here yesterday is a member of your committee.
Right.
And he argued that really what we are seeing is not corruption. It is that accounting officers were not able to give document to support expenses, that the matter is being overblown, that once they come to you, when the cabinet secretaries or principal secretary come to you, they explain, they give the explanation about those queries. Is that
you see, when the auditor does his report, he gives certain ratings, and there are areas that simply require furnishing of further documents, but there are areas whose expenditure the Auditor General finds it irregular, and that's where usually the focus goes on. The case in point of what you saw in Devolution Ministry was a case where the Auditor General actually asked and said, we do not have sufficient information to see how the expenditure of this 8 billion was done. And that is now when the PS for devolution comes and tables a document before the committee to show how that money was spent. So really, it is now when we go into the finer details of that information which he has now given us that all these issues now come up. So really, it's a fault because all accounting officers are expected to give the Auditor General by the 31st of September all the documents required. So the report we're looking at right now is 2013-2014. Literally, the accounting officers who are giving Auditor Generals information right now are late by more than a year. They were supposed to have done that last year, September 31st. So really, that itself, the delay with information itself, causes Auditor General to give an opinion.
So how do you explain this, the one in the newspaper today? A cabinet secretary comes and says, I have no information, give me more time.
Yeah. Allow me interject on this particular matter and remind the country and take them down the memory lane that some months ago, there was that serious publicity about how the country lost maybe around 66 or something billion, and this was information coming from the Auditor General. And people thought that that was a joke. And people started vilifying the office of the Auditor General, saying it's founded on malice, no information, and that kind of thing. And I remember even one time I sat in a program at 9 o'clock news, where and discussion with the Accountant General that particular evening. And the reasoning behind the Auditor General giving a report is because he has constitutional deadlines to meet in terms of preparation on reports of accounts on public bodies. Now, Mheshimiwa Balambala is correct, and he says that the CSS did not provide the necessary information when that information was required by the office of the Auditor General. He has cited an item or a matter to do with the regular payments. So we shouldn't ask ourselves further what irregular payments means. When you look at the law, for purchase of goods and services according to Article 227 of the Constitution and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2005, there are procedures that must be used by corporate or government institutions when procuring goods and services. So when goods are procured in a manner that is not prescribed in the law, then that procurement must be irregular. And if you have procured a service and you have paid for that particular service and the documentation is not there, then it is not easy or possible for the Auditor General to really determine the probity, or to determine the effectiveness of that process in terms of assessing whether the public relay and value for money during that particular purchase. So I think we have taken so much time to really accept that this country has gotten to another level. We are living in different order, where anything that is being done must be done in conformity to the Constitution and the law. So when ministers purchase things without following the procedures specified, to me it is illegal, it is not proper. And the best thing is that even if you look at the law itself, that before the Auditor General gives his report and after doing those audits, there is a time that is required by law to give a management letter to ask you to answer 1, 2, 3 questions.
He certainly made those points when he was here on the show with us, but then you were asking a specific question.
I was asking the question.
Yes.
There is a person, a permanent the Principal Secretary for Transport, who appeared before your committee.
Yes.
And he said he wants more time to get answers. Why? And if you were supposed to have done that last year.
First of all, let me say that
how can that be explained?
The Article 201, which is the first article on public finance, is very clear on matters of public finance, and it says that it should be open, it should be accountable, and all this. And now what is there is you have a situation, it's a very difficult situation indeed, that from a committee point of view, when you come to audit past records and you are a year later looking at that record, and somebody comes before you and tells you that this particular query of expenditure, I don't have sufficient documents to show. This particular payment, and many of them are in the billions of shillings. and tells you that no, we will go back. Really what we have seen is very, very poor performance by the accounting officers, in this case the principal secretaries. And the one thing that they need to realize is that at the end of the day, they are the people accountable for this money. They will be held accountable. In fact, in a ministry, the CS plays more of a policy maker position, a policy guidance position. Of course, I'm not saying that they don't have blame to carry. They too have a blame to carry if the larger organization is not healthy. But the principal secretaries should not give any excuses of why they should not account for every penny given to them. Remember, we are in an era of budget making, whereby we are going by what is called program-based budgeting. So really, even as we give money to those ministries, line by line, it is known that this amount is used for that purpose, this amount is used for that purpose. And a year later, somebody comes and tells you that I do not have sufficient information. That is why the committee at that point yesterday felt that there was not much progress which was being done. We should hold we should end the meeting there and allow the PS really to go and recollect himself and get together facts. Same thing you are seeing with the devolution. You know, facts which are tabled, which is now public information before the committee, and the PS comes around. I watched him on your show last night, saying that, you know, that information should not have been there, was not right, was not good. We are watching on behalf.
I don't understand.
Yes, we are watching for the Mwananchi. We act on behalf of the Mwananchi. When the principal secretary comes and gives us information, fully signed, and says this is information, now then he disowns that information and says that information is not correct, was not accurate. Certainly something is not right. As a committee, that information is still, that process is still ongoing. I will not be able to tell you what conclusion we will get to, because we are yet to receive that information, whatever. And I cannot, I'm not allowed by procedures to diverge more into that particular. But what I want to say is that indeed it is wrong for half-baked information to be brought to us. It is not fair to the taxpayer, who is supposed to be the owner of that money and who should know exactly where each penny was spent.
The problem I have with our accountability organs such as PSC is perpetually giving people opportunity to go and correct their wrongdoing. So what would stop the... Are
you asking for immediate consequences?
There should be consequences, because that's a clear failure, and there should be a line of action that issues, rather than give people correction opportunity to go and cook up documents to actually create the right facts and figures and documentation, which they're doing. Because if the documents are not there, where is he going to look? It means they were never there, and there should be consequences for that failure. How come we are not going past that? In fact, so that the corruption war is being left at the level of the chief executive, the accounting officers. But are we following to see that the back room, there is action in the back room? People are being held accountable for these omissions on the commissions? Let me tell you that I agree with you. Where I agree with you very much is committees like this in other jurisdictions. I give you Uganda here, our colleagues, not far from here. The chair of that particular committee has the authority to order an immediate arrest. In fact, part of the permanent members who sit in that committee are representatives from the equivalent of our IG. And the chair directs that this person should be head custody, or that particular person who has proved. Some things are very open, if unless any other information is brought. But when you see that a ball pen which costs 15 shillings, 10 to 15 shillings, is being bought for 8,700 shillings, surely that is beyond what you can even call corruption. That is open theft and open looting. And at that point in time, committees like ours in other jurisdictions are actually given the authority and power by law to order an immediate arrest of certain people. So I agree with you very much that indeed it is. Well, for us, it's in the openness of that fair trial under the Constitution, whereby you want to say, okay, you believe that you have more information to give to us in a more accurate manner, go and bring it. But let me be honest with you, the information which was tabled before the committee is now a property of
of Parliament. It's now a property of that particular committee. I personally will be very keen and looking forward to see what the other story is now, that what can change in what they have given us before.
I think this matter Makali is asking is a very important matter. And I want to ask people to look or ask further what the Constitution provides in terms of Article 125. Article 125 it gives parliamentary committees power to call for evidence, and that particular provision says that those committees have powers equivalent to those of the High Court. My interpretation of this thing is that and remember when people come to give evidence in committees, they have taken the oath, right? Yeah. So what is expected of those particular officers that give evidence before committees is to say nothing but the truth. So when a public officer first comes and gives evidence, we take it to be the whole truth because he has gone through oath, and the Constitution requires him to do that. And again, when you look at the provisions of Article 232, in terms of principles of public service, principles of public service dictate that any public officer must be accountable. Any public officer must be able to give information that is accurate to the public. So in cases where public officers come, give information, come withdraw it, you know, if it was in a court of law, and these committees are supposed to have that court, you know, some would be sentenced for perjury. Yeah. So I think it's how we conduct ourselves. It is not fair, and I think time has come when we must take
we're giving them this latitude to just play around, bring documents, withdraw them, go and cook figures, bring, look for documents,
and
fill up. I mean, really,
we can't allow. We are not serious. Yes. Yes. And I think Mangiti should also be be more serious, because to me that is gross misconduct. And this is a matter that can be used to get him out of office, because we can't take Parliament and this country for granted.
There's a question here from one of our viewers, Robert. What do internal auditors do or say in these ministries? Because you accuse Mangiti of gross misconduct, but what if he was in good faith accepting the work of internal auditors?
Now let me
what I wanted to say before, I think you answer better because it's more information, because by virtue of sitting in park. But let me say this, that I would want us to look at the whole thing in a bigger perspective. Mangiti, you know, is a PS. The other officers who are senior than him. But Mangiti could be a patriot. And Mangiti could be a person who would want to give information to the public but has no avenue. And now it becomes offense ignorance, and it becomes silly, because, you know, him is an engineer. I don't expect anyone who has done engineering to be stupid, right? So when he comes with a report and signed by him, I think he must, to me, before signing, he must have looked at all those items.
Do they make sense?
They make sense. And if that is what is contained in the price lists that, or in the LOPOs that supply those items, then he can't change them. So he comes up with a report that says we bought them at this price, and he signs. So he brings it to Parliament. And before he gets back to his office after dropping some bombshell in Bunge, maybe people are telling him, no, you must go back and say, no, this is an error. So Mangiti has nothing else, because he has to choose whether to continue earning a living or not, or become big-handed and go home.
Okay,
so
well,
these are things we must ask under what conditions was this done. So let us not even condemn him 100%, but ask questions, but he must also be responsible. Because it is also an
and that comes back to you, your role, yes. So answer the question about the role of internal auditors, but also how you what room you give for perhaps the scenario that Mr. Linturi describes.
Yes, you know, first of all, in terms of the internal auditors, yes, every ministry has its internal auditors. They have, we have even seen some programs, some government programs being required, especially those donor funded, they're required to be done special audits by consultants outside of the ministry and all that. And I want to tell you that the one audit report that our laws acknowledge is that of the Auditor General's report. And the Auditor General, what he does is he assigns officers to all these ministries. So the reports we are actually looking at are reports of people who are representing the Auditor General who went and audited in all those ministries and all those departments. That's the reports we are looking at right now. You will notice, because we do our work in public, that whenever we are looking, if you are looking at, we were looking at the Minister for Interior, for example, the people who represent the Auditor General are different from those who are sitting with us when we were looking at devolution, are different from those, because all of them represent the different units. The public has constitutionally the leeway and the freedom to present any factual information that they have of poor expenditure of public money directly to either the Public Accounts Committee or to Mheshimiwa Linturi here. There is, by the way, as the Committee of Public Accounts sits, he is like I do. I only sit there as a permanent member with a vote. But he is allowed by the standing orders of our Constitution that if he had the time, he will sit through that committee all the time. So any information given to any member of Parliament or directly to even the Speaker or Speaker's office, Clerk's office, or directly to the Chairman of the PAC committee will actually form that. And I encourage Kenyans very much. Any information that they have with regards to misuse of public funds, that information should come. But what Mheshimiwa Linturi here is saying is right. Well, that is a view that he says that somebody might have seen something very wrong and did not have any other avenue to bring this out nationally, and decides now this is the opportunity to do so and tables that before the committee. I agree with him very much that I am very surprised that a person of the caliber of the PS Mangiti can come and disown that kind of a document which he must have looked at and he has brought. Something worrying, as I conclude on this point, is there was a meeting that took place, reported purportedly not yesterday, day before, at the Deputy President's office, which included all the accounting officers, all CSAs and all this, in which they were, from what the information the media says, is that PSS were warned not to give information just like that. At first, now I think an avenue has been created of how, before information is tabled before a committee of Parliament, it should go. I think that is very, very wrong. I disagree with it completely. That now gives a leeway for people to go and cook figures, because somebody might not have agreed with Mangiti. If Mangiti was not to bring this issue directly to the Public Accounts Committee and take it to several channels, there will have been a lot of things done to hide facts and information. That to me is a very worrying trend. That to me, if it's going to be a government policy, is going to be a policy which indeed is going to encourage corruption. All it says that indeed go and do what you want to do, and we will make sure that the information that is given out there to the public is a doctored one.
We'll help you cover your tracks. Mr. Linturi, you're in Jubilee. And what's coming out of this, with the various queries into public finances, is that the Jubilee administration is being associated with grand corruption on a scale never seen before in Kenya. So,
Mimo, let me say this, and please, with all due respect, engraft corruption, whatever it is, to me is a vice, which is a cancer that we must all fight very strongly in this country. But further to that, allow me to say that this is an act of crime, and I believe criminal responsibility is individual. And I want to warn those people that are doing all these schemes, because I am sure not that the president is not involved, the NDP is not involved, and that's why I want us to look at the merits of whatever allegation. Of course, these people have been charged with the responsibility of running affairs of this country's resources, and there's no way somebody
I thought you just said now somebody might have called from the top and Mangiti was helpless. Now you're cutting off the top.
Let me tell you, no. Please understand in what context. I'm trying to explain the context in which I'm trying to explain. And I wanted to get to the place where Mimo talked about the auditors. Because, personally, if you are an accountant and you have to make any payment, you don't even need to know who you are paying. But to verify whether a payment is good or not is, first of all, when you've gotten that file, as an accountant or as an internal auditor, first you look at whether there is any requisition from the user department. You must look at the procedure that was used to procure that items, whether there was an advertisement, whether there were quotations, or whatever it is. After you've seen, you must also check whether there is a delivery. When you have checked whether there is a delivery, you must also check whether there is, in government ministries, there are those people that are called the inspectors. Those people that come inspect items that have been delivered and give a report. Check whether it is there. And when you've checked that it is there, check whether the voters list, right, really are for the items that have been supplied. Check whether there is a vote, right, to pay for that particular item. All these are
I think you answered the question which was not asked.
No.
The question which was asked is
I'm just trying to explain that now when you find money being lost in ministries, there must be a serious scheme and serious cartel, because you don't expect now. And
you have listed the procedure, and procedures are followed in this country to the letter. It is value
for money.
For money, that is the problem. Exaggerated pricing is where the problem is. Like the pen he was talking about costing 7,500. The procedure may have been followed, but is that value? So at what point is that checked? And that's where really it matters.
Now, the most unfortunate thing is that our procedural audit, our audit system as it is mostly procedural, right? And as long as procedures have been put in place, many people may not ask about.
No.
Let me explain.
That is not true. I know you're an accountant, but that is not true. There is a national market value for pricing for all items. This is a guide to procurement. Is that true or not?
Let me explain.
Is that true or not? Is that true?
No, I must make this clear.
Okay, make it
because I'm not disagreeing with him. I am not. Only that it's now become too fast without giving me the opportunity to get there.
Fine.
So now the next question I wanted you to ask is, and everybody to ask himself, because there are those market prices prevailing everywhere in the market, and it's common sense that anybody that is sitting in an office uses a pen. When you see an invoice that is raising, or that you are supposed to pay for a pen at 8,700, that is when, as an accounting officer or an auditor or a chief accountant, you have to raise the alarm and go to the finance, the accounting officer, and tell him, my friend, this thing I don't think is right. Right? The procedures may have been used, but I don't think we are getting value for money. But the other thing we must understand, and that is only discretionary, because it's only the accounting officers or those other people that can raise. I have an issue with serious issues with the Public Audit Act, because the Public Audit Act, it went to the president was taken back to Parliament, not been signed to date. The issue that we earned, because I was part of the team that was formulating this law when I was a commissioner at the Kenya National Audit Office, was to provide for value for money audit. And we were trying to check to amend the law to provide for that, so that you don't go anywhere in the street and come and tell us this road has done for billions and that kind of thing. This thing has not succeeded.
Those are the 2 points. My view is that those are the 2 levels at which we are losing money. One is overpricing of items, and 2 is non-delivery of items purported to have been purchased.
Agreed.
Or services rendered, where money is just swindled.
Okay. So you've given us a question, you responded to the question on the level of process, but not in terms of the administration and its affiliation, its association with grand corruption.
Let
the Jubilee person.
Now, where the matter has gotten into is that I was trying to explain and how then these auditors must, or not, the internal auditors and everybody else must also be looking at this matter. Anyone that is involved in investigation. I was just trying to shed more light, because Macaulay brings out a very important issue, that yes, people are paying for non-existent or goods that have not been supplied. But why I was saying it is a cartel, you find that these officers will go and stamp deliveries and purport to have signed. So these people that are making investigations, other than getting the matter closed are there, they must also go to the ledger books and check whether actually in the stock accounts, whether those items have been entered and how they were dished out.
Yes, please come in.
Let me say that, first of all, even the youngest child who can understand something, a 7-year-old and 8-year-old, must be shocked with the level of corruption in the country right now. It is shocking, and it appears to run throughout the system, because otherwise some of these issues which now are coming up, because if you say the accounting officer, yes, at the end of the day that's the person responsible, but who is responsible overall even for appointing that accounting officer? It's the CS Treasury. He's the person who appoints all these accounting officers. Who is the CS Treasury? is a representative of the executive in terms, the topmost person in terms of the financial management. I'm telling you, there is serious corruption that is running through. It is right through all the systems of the government as it is right now. And I want to tell you honestly, I restrain myself very much because being a member of the Public Accounts Committee, you know, we are still in that investigative process, and that investigative process is going to bring individuals culpable. There will be a time when we will sit here and have far more detailed discussion than probably we are having now. But let me say, Mheshimiwa Lunturi, one fact we cannot run away from is that it is the Jubilee administration which is in power that is responsible in taming this corruption in this country. Nobody else right now is in charge to do that. That's why when I was talking the other day publicly, I said if you are not able to do that, then step aside. Let others do it. You know, we have seen policies that have led to this country in terms of, for example, look at what's happening to our shilling, for example, right now. Because of that Eurobond issue and the mistake that was done there and the lack of good policy guidance that has really caused us to...
How do we tie in?
We have to tie that in after the break.
Now let's look at the ministerial responsibility.
Yeah, we have to tie that in after the break. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. Today's guests are the Honorable Abdikadir Aden. He's from ODM and the Quad Coalition. We also have with us Mifeka Lunturi, who is from the TNA and Jubilee Coalition.